This is Wake Up Sierra Leone here on AYV Television and Radio. We're broadcasting from our studio at 3 Wesley Street off Pademba Road in Freetown, Sierra Leone's capital. And we're encouraged as always to be a part of the conversation. Drop a comment or question about the issues we're discussing on our Facebook page. It's AYV News. Now in our second and final segment, in the studio we have been joined by Freetown City Mayor, Her Worship Ivona Kisoya. The mayor is here to give an update on Council's Transform Freetown project and also responding to an allegation of misappropriation of funds over 4.7 billion new loans that are reported to have gone missing from FCC in the 2024 audit report, among other things. Good morning, Mayor. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to be here. Samuel, Fabian, always a pleasure.
So how did the council end up in this situation of missing funds?
So Fabian, I'm not sure we're on the same page. I'm not aware of the audit report that you're mentioning. What I am aware of is that in November of last year, as part of our regular reconciliations, so our payments are all meant to go into the bank. You know, we were talking about it just now before the program started, that we discourage cash. You know, you'll hear me, I've just done a video which will be going out for property rates, and I remind residents, do not pay cash. So our payments are all done through the banking system, but we do reconciliations between what the documents say and what the bank statements say. And in the process of that standard reconciliation that was going on for the billboards department last year in November, it was identified that there were some funds missing. And that was also, I think, because there was an engagement with the supplier, which kind of highlighted this. So FCC started an investigation, set up an investigation committee, and that's been going on. And in the process of that committee's work, the information was shared with, or I suppose ACC do their own investigations and kind of find out what's going on in different places, and they also came on board. So now the ACC is leading on the investigation, but we at Freetown City Council as management are fully supportive because we started the investigation first, and we will see it through to its logical conclusion.
How was it picked up that led to an investigation?
That's what I'm saying. It was picked up because what was in the bank statements did not accord with the paperwork. And then reach out was made to the supplier of the service. Not really supplier of the service. I guess the person who is due to pay council. They're not supplying us a service. They're paying us a fee for something that they're allowed to do. They're paying us a fee. And so because what they said they had paid was different to what was in the books, in the bank statement, that raised an alarm, and then the investigation committee was set up. So the investigation committee is set up by, it includes the Met Police in our council, it includes the HR department, a number of councillors. So there's an established sort of framework which kind of kicks into place when things like this happen. So that was constituted at the end of November. Of course, we came into Christmas, but then that investigation, as I said, sat immediately. The people responsible who were identified were put on suspension with immediate effect. So council took firm, fast action, and now the ACC has come in and they're expanding the review because they've also picked up on information which we couldn't have seen because it's outside of the council's books.
Another allegation speaks to revenues which should have been collected with regards to billboards.
That's the same one.
Because the other day I heard Farmer
it's the same
was
one.
Responding.
It's the same
How
one.
is it affecting council's revenue generation
drive?
Well,
I mean, and this is very important because, as I said, we decided to call a press conference after the ACC started its work. There were a couple of interviews, and unfortunately, in the usual sort of spirit of things, some people decided they were going to politicize this and find an excuse to get me involved. I have nothing to do with this. As the mayor, I don't sign checks. I'm not directly supervising the billboards department. I get all of these things reported to me. It has absolutely nothing, no connection with me. I saw a post.
But the connection is it's under your leadership.
Absolutely. That's the connection. But sadly, Fabian.
Just as we blame the president if health issues, electricity
oh, yes, yes. From that perspective.
It goes directly
to
him.
Oh, yes. But this isn't a question of things not going well. This isn't a question of service delivery failing. This is a question of somebody misappropriating funds.
Under your leadership?
Well, you would then say under the leadership, all the misappropriation of funds, all the allegations of illegal activities are under the leadership of the president. Of course, the person who's leading the city, leading this institution, is in charge. But when there's direct fraud, somebody sits in their corner and steals money, doesn't become me. Because what my role is to ensure that we have the frameworks, the processes, the procedures in place to ensure that we pick those things up and we act. And that's exactly what we've done. We've set up an investigation, we've suspended the members of staff, we've made sure we're getting to the bottom of it. But more importantly, we also, like I said, because we noticed that unfortunately some people tried to make this about the mayor as opposed to supervision, we decided to call a press conference. And it's not just the mayor, it's also the leadership. Like I said, we have a leadership council. I am the overall head of the council, but we also have a chief administrator who's responsible and to whom the staff directly report. He reports to me. I oversee everything. We always say at FCC, we don't have two heads, we only have one, and that head is me. At the same time, there are processes and procedures that people must follow. There's reporting that must be done, and I can't be in every department. And I think that's perfectly understandable, and I don't think anybody would quibble with that. But one thing I want to quickly say is, with regards to the press conference, that at the press conference, we made it abundantly clear that what we have sought to do, we talked about cash. I introduced the digitization of the property rate system and the business license system. I'm the one who introduced payments to the banks so that now we don't have any platform where you pay in cash. I introduced having the banking hall. We had a couple of banks in the old building, but going into the new building, we made sure every bank that works with council has a booth in the city council. So it makes it very easy for us to ensure that payments are made through our system. So I am a champion. I'm an auditor. I've got an audit background. I'm a champion of internal controls and procedures. But I'm also, having been in this space for 10 years, I'm now accustomed with people with political interests or political agendas trying to turn things around and make them to be what they're not. So we'll take that on and we'll continue to do what the right thing is, focus on getting value for money for our residents.
On several occasions, we've heard from you in terms of you highlighting how council is overstretched in its efforts to address the many constraints residents within Freetown municipality are faced with. 1.4 billion is
1.5 million.
1.5
million people? Are we talking about people?
I'm talking of the quantum of monies involved.
So you see these figures you're mentioning, I'm not aware of them. So I'd like you to know, just a second, Samuel, I'd like you to know that social media should not be the basis of information, because we're hearing all sorts of different figures. The figure that we were dealing with at council was 200 million leones, old leones, 200 million. The figures that are coming out of the ACC's expanded investigation are, I understand, larger, but I've not yet had that report. So what you're saying now is hearsay. So let's be careful with that.
So which should we trust at this moment? I mean,
well, I don't think so. Social media is a place to trust. Definitely not. So let's wait until the ACC is working closely with us. They're asking for information. They're asking to investigate or interview staff members. Those people are going to them. I'm very confident that, through this process, they will be able to come up with a figure and they will be able to help council get that money back. And that's what we're looking forward to happening.
So now let's talk of the Transform Freetown Drive. At some point in time, just recently, you had some dignitaries from across other parts of the globe who were here to ensure, of course, still need to make Freetown a better place, one that is recognizable by others from across the globe. Just give us an update to same as we delve deep into the conversation.
Okay, so I think I was here after the Heat Summit,
Sure.
so we talked about that at great length.
Sure.
And I'm not going to perhaps go over that again. Let's use this opportunity to just give you some updates
Sure.
on other elements of our work that are going on. So this is why, like I said at the press conference, I spoke about the social contract. Because for Freetonians, what they care about is we pay our taxes, council delivers services. And that's our #1 objective. So just updates on some of the recent activities. So I know one thing that everybody's been very excited about is the beautification at Hannah Cooker Street. And we're really, really thrilled that work is just a sort of a first step in a wider engagement. So we're expecting to move from Hannah Cooker Street to go round across to Zonta Bypass, and then to move to Congo Cross. We'll be doing the same there. And then Shekel Stephen Street is also going to have a facelift. So when it comes to beautification, just to let you know that that's very much underway, and we're going to continue to do that. But at the same time, Freetonians, we're seeing a really troubling trend. I actually took a picture this morning of an example of it on Lumley Beach Road, and we need to be each other's keepers and each other's watchmen. I've seen, and maybe you've seen it as well, that the latest trend is for construction companies, when they've done demolition work and they've got construction rubble, like the broken cement, to go and just put that along the sidewalk, put that along the roadside across the city. And obviously this is being done in the dark of night when FCC personnel aren't around and others aren't around. But this really speaks to something that's very, very wrong in our society. We're trying to beautify the city. And you, as a construction worker, or maybe the truck driver, maybe it's not the construction companies with their authority and backing, but for you right now, Lumley Beach Road, and I've seen it again in the middle of the city, and I've seen it in the East End, taking construction material and illegally depositing. Freetonians, we really need to ask ourselves, what is our objective? Because this cannot be right. And the same applies to those who continue to put their waste in the middle of the streets. But that notwithstanding, we will clear it up, but that's not the way our resources should be used. We shouldn't be using fuel and manpower to go and clear somebody's job. You have construction material, take it to the dump site and have it deposited properly. Don't deposit it on the side of the streets. And Freetonians, where you see that they happen, not turn a blind eye. Please also sound the alarm.
Is it a question of weak supervision from the side of council?
Well, Samuel, do you really think that we can be on every street for 24 hours a day? No. Even though we only have now only 100 Met Police and we're in a recruitment drive, we're trying to take on at least about 50 more because you get attrition. Some people, get sick, some people pass away, some people retire. So we had 150 in about 2021, 2022, and we're down to 100. So we're recruiting more. But even if we had 300 Met Police or 400 Met Police, Samuel, we cannot be on every street. When people decide they're going to go in the dead of night to go and deposit construction material, that's just being very, very unpatriotic. So let's not make it about FCC. Use your platform to speak to Freetonians and tell them this is wrong and we need to stop doing the wrong thing and expecting to see miracles. Let's do the right thing so that together we have the city we want. So I'm putting that out there and really saying that, there's no policy that you can, it's against the law. You're breaking the law. You're depositing waste, construction waste on the side of the road. Don't do it.
As you said, it's a social contract between the council and the people. For the council to be able to provide the facilities it provides for the residents in Freetown, it requires resources.
Absolutely.
But you do have other avenues to generate resources. How aggressive are you in resource generation to be able to deliver the work to the people?
Great, thank you. So precisely for that reason, we took the very bold step in when we're doing our budget for 2025, and we increased our own source revenue target from the last year it was 42 was our target for property rates and business license. We increased it to, I think it's, if I'm correct, 55 billion. So new loans, I'm still getting confused with this. So 55 billion old loans, let me just stick with what I know. 55 billion old loans. Why? Because when we looked at the investment we want to make, we have just done an assessment of all the markets in the city. And we've done the BOQ of what we need to do to do repairs across the board. We've also done assessment of all the water points across the city. So every single one, we have a report now that says, you know, in this community, we have 5 water wells, 2 don't work, you know, we have this toilet, it's not working, or that one is working. A very comprehensive assessment. And we're about to commission a comprehensive assessment for the municipal schools as well for repairs. But in order for us to do that work, we had to be bold and say what we targeted in 2024 will not cover what we want to do in 2025. So increased our budget, which means we need Freetonians to be compliant. So that social contract is two-way. We are prepared to do the work. We have done the assessments. We're working on the BOQs. We will deliver. But we will do that work. But in order for us to do that work, we must have the Freetonians play their side. And that is, that, if I may just finish, and that is the Freetonians must pay their property rates and business license. You say there are more innovative ways, but let's start with the basics.
But
because 65%
usually in the human relation, tax is not one thing humans pay voluntarily and
but it's,
happily.
And yes,
there are always
we may not be
strategies
happy
of tax avoidance, tax evasion, so it leaves again the bulk of the burden to collect that on the institutions.
So of course. So I think what we're saying, let me be clear that we're on the same page. What I hear you saying is you recognize and you accept that 65 to 70% of our revenue comes from property rates and business license. You accept that. You also say the human character, particularly when our economy is doing so badly and people are really struggling. I heard, of course, we're in the same city. We hear NRA is 25% below their target, I believe is what I heard. So we know that people's in a difficult situation, businesses are closing, the economy is really struggling. The people aren't going to be excited to pay tax, they're not going to run to pay tax. So I think what I hear you saying is, how do we make it easier for our residents? How do we try and, you know, close those gaps? And what we're doing is a number of things. One, very, very important, is for the first time, you can pay your property rate now with mobile money, specifically with Afri money, because Orange Money, we're still working with them on that. So we'll hopefully get there before the end of the year. So residents, I know for some people, just even getting out of your home and going to a bank is a disincentive for you, particularly if your rate is on the lower side. Mm-hmm. For those who are on the lowest level, which is 150,000 leons, old leons, 150 new leons a year. There are many residents at that level. About 35% of our residents are at that level. You might think that paying transport to go to a bank and come back is almost the amount, and you then just think, council won't find me, I'll leave it. We want to let you know that now you can pay your property rates with Afri money. It says so on your demand notes. The demand notes are being distributed now as I speak. So please, if you have Afri money, or if you don't, go pay at an agent. You can pay with Afri money. So that's one of the things. The other thing we're doing is we're working to ensure that all the banks are on board. And the main bank, one of the principal banks, which wasn't part of the mob tax system previously, that's joining us now, we're literally going through the process, and we've already made the information available. Actually, we've already made the information available, it's already on your demand note, is Sierra Leone Commercial Bank. So we know that there are a large number of particularly government workers who have Sierra Leone Commercial Bank accounts. And until now, Sierra Leone Commercial Bank wasn't one of our mob tax banks. It now is. And the other thing that we're doing is working in partnership with EcoBank. We are opening up small collection booths in some of the areas in the city that are harder to reach, that don't have, you know, sort of banks banking offices there, or at least they're not easily accessible to people who maybe are living up on the hills, like in Hill Station. So having EcoBank open up small booths to collect our property rates, these are all ways in which we are supporting, but we're making it easier for residents. But the most important thing I would say for residents is for them to see the work that we're doing. So from the fact that I've mentioned the beautification, the fact that we are continuing with our water interventions, the fact that we're doing these market rehabilitations, the physical display and evidence of how council resources are being used, I think often the biggest motivation for our residents.
Let's round off on that tax on property quickly.
Sure.
There's a lot of upgrading going around in the city through the gentrification process. Some of the buildings are not as they were. You would pass by today, it's just a one-story building.
Yes.
In a couple of months, depending on the resources that people have, or years, you would see it's an entirely different structure,
totally
bigger. In such cases, it's expected that the tax system should have changed. Is it so or not?
Yes, you're quite right. And there are two things I'd like to say on that point. The first one is what I say every single time I have a mic or a platform, which is the evolution of building permits should be at the council level for precisely that reason. For precisely that reason. Because not only are we the ones who have to ensure that the cesspit that they have is still big enough for the increased size of the property. That's a very, very important point, if they have a cesspit at all. That the toilets they have are sufficient for the bigger property. If there's parking, these are things that bother are relevant to council, but we don't issue the building permit. Building permits are issued by Ministry of Lands. So when that building goes from 1 story to 4 stories, we only know when we see it. So what do we do about adjusting the property rate? On a periodic basis, and we've just done the same, if you remember, Fabian and Samuel, the way we do our property rate, the digitization that I brought in as mayor, speaking of transparency and accountability, speaking of somebody who is interested in making sure cash payments are not made and monies go to where they should go, I brought in the digitization system for property rates. And that means that our property rate database is initially populated through a satellite image of the city. And we update that satellite image every 4 to 5 years. We have just done a new image, which will soon be uploaded onto the system. That will flag the difference of 2020, when we had the last one, or late 2019, and 2024. So that there's a what will I say, a technical, a computerized comparison that will be done that will enable us to see, okay, there's a change here, and we will then send our staff on foot, enumerators on foot, to validate what the changes are and update our property rate system accordingly. So this is all now done with computer technology, and therefore it's far more efficient. But I still say that had building permits been devolved to the city council, not only would we know, but there'd be instances where we would say, no, it's not appropriate at this place for you to increase it by 4 stories unless you can provide a car park for the people who will be living here, because this is increasing the congestion in the city.
Her Worship, there is a disturbing situation that many Freetonians are faced with at the moment. There are many structures within the central business district. Most times you see the waste from the toilets around the streets. Many of these government buildings, most times you see same. How is council reacting to these constraints that Freetonians are faced with?
Sam, I want you to say your question again, because I'm not sure I'm clear, because you mentioned government buildings, you mentioned...
Of course, government buildings.
You mentioned, human waste. Can you just rephrase that?
So I'm talking of human waste.
Yes,
most
so
times,
be very clear.
Around the CBD, you see human waste from, say, the pipes or whatsoever.
Aha.
Within
the pipes.
Pipes.
So you're talking about the underground sewage system.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So how is council reacting to same?
Right. So that, again, in all of these things, you have to look at it from the different elements that contribute to this. One, the underground sewage system was built decades ago, when Freetown, as a central business district, had a fraction of the population it has now. Fabian has just mentioned properties which were single story, now maybe 4, 5, 6 stories. And I said, one of the challenges with the fact that this is clearly something that has to do with the delivery of municipal services, which is why in every other country, in every other city that I know, the city council is the one that gives the permits to ensure that important services, important features like waste collection, liquid waste, whether they're going into our sewage system, whether they have a cesspit and they're going to have a vacuum truck evacuate them, that these things are in place. But as we stand now, Samuel, as we stand now, FCC is not informed about these permits being given. We don't know when these building works are done, and therefore we have no input to ensure that the necessary sanitary provisions are made. That is not good for any city. It is not good, and there's no reason why this should happen. I continue to say, as I've said endlessly, if we can't devolve, then at least let's collaborate. Let us be informed. We've written letters in the past. Let us be informed. Let us be part so that we know in advance. And we also have a role to play. If people put up multi-story buildings, and we know they exist, because when we do spot checks, but you can do spot checks, but you can't check every single building in Freetown. But when you do spot checks, we find buildings, multi-story buildings with tenants inside and no toilets. The only way that can be prevented is if Freetown City Council is part of the building permit process, part of the approval process, and therefore we can say in advance of the building being constructed, you must have the, we say it's in the law, but you can't enforce it if you don't know when the structures are going up. Now, let's move on to, that's one element, the increased pressure on a sewage system which is decades old. So we do repairs on a fairly regular basis, but we are talking about a system which was built over 50 years ago and which is now bursting on the seams. So whenever there's a breach, you know, and we see sewage coming out, we respond immediately. But that's not the ideal situation. The ideal situation is what we're working to, and that is to raise funds. And again, I think, Fabian, you talked about, you know, there's so much that we want to do. You know, I mentioned that we're increasing our in-country budget, but we're also increasing our revenue drive externally. But as we all know, the geopolitical dynamics of the world are changing right in front of our eyes. So there will be a time when that bridge will no longer be available. And I always say, for me, it's a bridge, because I'm fiercely proud of being a Sierra Leonean. And I believe that as a Sierra Leonean, we should, as a nation, not be having to wait for handouts. And that's something that really defines the way I approach many things. So for now, we raise funds externally, but I always say to our donor partners, to our philanthropy partners, for me it's a bridge, because we need to get our economies in a place where this is no longer required. But for now, for our internal sewage system, we are working on funding, and I'm very grateful that I am in a position to say that all things being equal, we should get that approved. A full feasibility study has been done of what repairs and upgrades are needed to bring that sewage system, which is underground here in the Central Business District, to bring it up to par. And there's a budget that's been identified, and now what we were doing was looking for the funding. And we've got some indication that that might be around the corner. I will let you know when it's firmed up, but that would be the answer. It would be the answer for the improvements, but it's not the answer for the continuous pressure. We have building permits being given at a level at the Ministry of Lands where they do not appreciate or understand that that increase in people means increase in sewage, means increase in parking, means increase in solid waste, and all of these things have to be dealt with by Freetown City Council. That is not part of the conversation. But we've also got something else that I want to raise really quickly.
Yeah, we'll talk on same. Let's quickly go for sports. When we come back, we'll allow you to, of course, get your final bite on same. But nonetheless, Mariesta Samuel is all set in our studio to bring us the latest updates in sports. Mari, good morning.
Good morning. Well, for our sports updates this morning, we start off with the Leon Premier League, which is underway in Sierra Leone, as 10-men East Alliance Football Club punished Loa FC 3-0 to move second spot with 22 points on the log in the Leon Rock Premier League. Goals from Musa Noah Kamara and Sam Diallo and an own goal gave the host all 3 points. And like I mentioned, they now sit second on the Leon Rock Premier League. Away from that, Sports Life Ministry, a religious-based, non-profitable organization, is set to host a series of sporting events, including football matches, volleyball competitions, among other things, with the aim of uniting people through the power of sport and spreading the gospel of Christ. This is in celebration of its 25th anniversary. AYV's Sasol Moyomba reports.
Tatimap Nayaso for officially launch them back in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Son. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for the ministry in Jesus' name. Amen.
Sports Life Ministry, a religious non-profit organization dedicated to uniting people through sports, has announced a series of events to celebrate its 25 years anniversary. The planned activities include exciting football matches, competitive volleyball tournaments, and Bible quiz competitions, all designed to bring together youth from across Sierra Leone and foster unity and spiritual growth among them.
Art Center Sport Life International is a parachurch organization, and that is using sport to witness to people. And for this Silver Jubilee, we've lined up a series of activities. Today is the launching, and we're going to have the football. We have football competition among 16 churches. We have Bible quiz competition. We have volleyball for male and female. And we have athletics and the Jog for Jesus, which will come up on the 19th of April, the Saturday before Easter Sunday. And then the following Saturday before Independence will be the final for the football. At the end of this all, we, as I stated earlier, we want to really reach out to the unreached for Jesus. And we are using sport as the main means of, the main medium of doing that.
The ministry's efforts come at a critical time as Sierra Leone grapples with the challenges of drug abuse, with key stakeholders advocating for the use of sports as a positive alternative for the country's youth. The lined-up events are expected to attract hundreds of young people. Sports Life Ministry's celebration is a timely reminder of the power of sport to transform lives and build a more united, drug-free and spiritually healthy society. Sir Solomon Yumba, AYV Sports, Freetown.
Many thanks to Sir Solomon Yumba for that report. And quickly, in the Women's Premier League yesterday, Mobimo Queens defeated Kalon Women's Football Team by 3-0. And Ram K continues to lead the table, having secured a 2-1 win against Patricia Umu. Well, that's it for sports updates. Over to you, Samuel and Fabian.
Indeed, many thanks to you, Mariesta Samuel, for bringing us the latest updates in sports. And as way of rounding off this conversation, I will ship you trying to say something. But quickly, over time, we've seen, we've noticed you've been very aggressive in terms of revenue generation drive for the council. But again, what has been the impact of revenues collected, particularly so from the markets and even street traders?
Okay, so on the revenue collected, one of the things that Freetonians, I actually put it that, obviously I'm about to say this now, the amount of money that we're having to spend on sanitation is massive. With the support of the World Bank, we have 700 people sweeping the streets every single morning. That costs about $1 billion oleons a month. $1 billion oleons. And then we, in addition, and we used to cover about half of that ourselves until the bank stepped in and said they'd give us some space, give us some fiscal space by enabling us to have that same work done, but under the PSSNYE project. We still, though, spend over another $200 million a month for clearing the markets, collecting the public space cleaning, so the people sweep, but it's got to be collected. And also doing illegal dump site clearing, which sadly is needed far more often than we want to. I will say, so that's 1.2 billion already a month, just on sanitation. I will say, though, that we continue to be hopeful that change is on the offing. Sadly, as I think I've said to you guys before, after 5 years of our expectation that we'd have the new sanitary landfill in Hastings, for which the World Bank had committed $20 million, sadly, the central government between the Ministry of Lands, Ministry of Defense, and Ministry of Finance, sadly, they were unable to provide the said land in an unencumbered form. So the World Bank has had to withdraw that money, which means we don't have that sanitary landfill, which means we're still using Kisi and King Tom Bome, which continues to put pressure. But that notwithstanding, with the new bylaw, which has still not been laid in Parliament, but we're very, very hopeful that that will be done very soon. And as the Minister of Local Government was telling us in a meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, that once it's laid, it's not going to be debated. It's just 21 days, and then we'll see that become law. And I'll have to come in for a whole session on what that means. We'll be doing a lot of media to help people understand what the new sanitation bylaws will mean. The other thing that I think I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, when you talk about Transform Freetown, transforming lives, something that's under the radar is the jobs that are being created. So I said in passing just now, 700 people sweeping the streets. That is a lot of jobs. And they are being paid on a monthly basis, and that means a step up for all of those individuals, an opportunity to invest in a business, an opportunity to go further their education, an opportunity to meet the needs of their families. But it doesn't just stop there with those 700. We've actually got our tree tracking audit going on. For Freetown, the Tree Town, we're about to embark on in fact, we have embarked on an audit of all the trees. And our monitors are still doing their work. Our tree growers are still doing their work. So you've got about 1,000 people who have jobs for tree tracking, for Freetown, the tree tracking, Freetown, the Tree Town. So you actually are beginning to see what you don't see with your eyes, and that is the change in people's lives through having employment. We've just handed over 12 more water kiosks into communities. That's water kiosks run by women. Each of them have groups of 10 women who are manning them, who've been trained in business, who've been trained in the technical work, because each water kiosk has a water filtration system. So there's a little bit of engineering that they're learning, as well as the entrepreneurship skills. So without even going into the full range, I've just highlighted 3 areas where very directly interventions of council are impacting lives, transforming lives, creating jobs, whilst delivering sanitation, whilst delivering environmental restoration, and whilst delivering water within our communities. This is the actual reality, in spite of the challenges of us not having our revenue we wanted to. And 200 million loans, which we were investigating, vis-a-vis our own source revenue budget of 77 million leons. No, 200 million old leons is 2 billion leons, right? So this is 77 billion leons is our revenue target for 2025, is our budget for 2025. And I think what I really want to land on is the encouragement of Freetonians. If you want Freetown City Council to work for you, for me, for all of us, then we must all play our part. We must all play our part.
And in playing part, many of them have sent in questions and comments. We'll just read few of them for response. The internet is acting up, but I recall there was one person asking about why is it taking 4,000 leones to register a business at the council, but it's only costing about 250 leones to register at corporate affairs? The person was asking about the disparities and if that's not sort of discouraging people from registering. Dauda Tarawali says, Phoebe, can you please ask the mayor to give an update on the registration of the Lawyers Society, because the PRO of the Bar Association made an allegation of corruption with their registration yesterday on AYV on Sunday. More of those messages. Mohammed El Jallo says, good morning, AYV. Please, Madam Mayor, I really need your answer on this very important question. With all this multitude of problems that we are faced with as Freetonians, don't you think it only makes sense that instead of the Freetown City Council going ahead with construction of cable cars in Freetown, the council should instead use those money to solve some of these problems? And finally, Swissman says, Madam Mayor, we are not manufacturing money, but we're misusing taxpayers' money all the time. What is happening in your department? You see how money is been missing, and you keep telling people to pay their taxes, and people are paying their taxes without knowing, without no development. Why do you think people would continue to pay their tax when council is not using the money in the appropriate way to develop the country? Even market women don't have advanced market system like Central Business Center, where everyone should visit if they want all kinds of things from foodstuff to electronic. You people should take responsibility to protect state resources instead of misusing it. Money is not meant to be abused because it's difficult to achieve.
Then one last one here is from Abubakar Rashid, who says, on his sewage system leakage on the streets of Freetown at Wesley Methodist Church at Lamina Sanko Street, at big markets, going down Nasit, I was told that council is unable to pay the contractors.
Okay. So with the person who asked about the business registration, let me clarify that there isn't a blanket business registration category. And so to say that to register a business costs 4,000 leones is actually incorrect. I would suggest that you check what the business category is. There isn't a blanket. So there's a range of fees, and I know that there are fees which are 500. So it very much depends on the nature of the business. So that's the first one. With the Lawyers Society registration, to the best of my knowledge, because I followed up with the CA, the Lawyers Society applied to register their organization. And there is absolutely no legal reason why that should not be done. And I followed up because it's long outstanding. I followed up with the chief administrator last week, and I was assured that that business registration had been signed. And I see, you know, I mean, it's a standard process. Someone applies to have their organization registered. That registration should go through on the basis of the criteria that is set by council. And as far as I know, there's nothing about the Lawyers Society that should prevent that happening. With regards to the cable car, so this is interesting. For one thing, we have major transport challenges in the city. We have traffic congestion, we have air pollution, and so having a cable car which reduces the travel time from between Kissi Ferry Terminal to the CBD, reduces it to 15 minutes, is actually of benefit to the economy and to our health. And there isn't a question of using the money for something else, because I'd like you to understand, caller or submitter of the point, that the cable car financing will not be coming from some generic financing. No one has come and said, City Council, here is money, use it for whatever you want. The only way the cable car will be financed is if there are investors who are interested in financing the cable car and see that there will be returns to them by improving public transport availability in the city. And that business case only works if Freetonians want to use the cable car. And all the surveys that have been done have shown that the reduction in time, the reduction in cost, the reduction in pollution, and the improvement in quality of life, because women will be safer in the cable car is why the business case is working. So if we had a pot of money and we were told, oh, you can choose between a cable car or building 5 hospitals, that would be totally different. But this is not a question of saying, use the money for the cable car for that. So I hope that clarifies things for you, caller. I hope you get a better understanding now. The person who said money is missing and development is not happening, I would respectfully like to disagree with you. As I've just explained, we are doing so much work and continue and have done. From construction right now, as I speak to you, we just set a date for the commissioning of the walls at the cemeteries at Ascension Town, at Kissy Road, at the school at Akibo Betts. We've just set the 13th of March, 2 weeks from now, or is it 1 week? 2 weeks from now for that commissioning. We, on a daily basis, are delivering services to Freetonians in sanitation, in the markets, in clearing up the illegal dump sites which residents are creating, in providing water in communities that haven't got water access. So in providing the beautification, the work on Hannah Coker Street was a combination of own source revenue, which really improves even people's quality of life and sense of enjoyment. But more fundamentally, across the city, on a daily basis, council is delivering services, is responding to calls from the Met Police to our PHAs. All of this is resource that requires investment, and that is what our taxes are going to. And as I've just said, we've just done a BOQ for a rehabilitation of our markets, of all the markets, and you will soon see that work beginning. So to say that because, I find this so interesting, because I'm sure that across the entire country, in every ministry, department, and agency, and I won't even name them because I think we all know that there have been incidents when individuals have done things which are fraudulent, and the good, important part is that you have an institution which is able to identify that, bring a stop to it, and take the necessary actions. So if you are not paying your taxes, please do not use an isolated incident at council as an excuse for not paying your taxes. That is not civic behavior. We are transparent, we are accountable, we are audited. And please do not mislead Freetonians, because an incident happened which we, the management, identified and are now dealing with, is not an excuse for saying property tax is, or any tax at council is not being appropriately used. With respect to the market that you made mention of, I will remind you again that the Sarah Grounds market, which is the main market that everybody has been anticipating and looking forward to being opened, has been in the hands of NACIT since 2018. NACIT has been solely in charge. Council has had very, very limited, next to no engagement. We did have a meeting. NACIT came to see us a couple of months ago. We've written to them twice since then to remind them that we're still waiting to be informed about where we are with that process. But even so, we don't have the big market, but we have we will be on the same day as we're commissioning the walls, the cemetery walls. We're also going to be opening the Wilberforce market. And like I said, we're now rolling out massive rehabilitation of markets across the city. Wesley Road, where the fecal sludge, you said there's a breach and the contractors have been paid. I will refute that. And I will actually also ask the caller, because I know for certain, I was just at that site last month, that the breach, the damage at the Wesley Street has been repaired, because it actually backs onto the Tower Hill Primary School, Tower Hill Municipal Primary School, and I was there personally. And I saw the work, I saw the photographs. So again, it's very important that we try and stick to facts when saying things in the public domain, but I will refute that. And I will say if the contractor has an issue of non-payment, he can certainly raise it with me. But to the best of my knowledge, even though, just to clarify, I approve documents, I don't sign checks. To the best of my knowledge, that was approved, and I'm pretty certain it's been paid. If I'm wrong, Mr. Contractor, please do reach out to me and we'll follow up on that.
With that being said, we say thank you so very much. Her worship, the Mayor of Freetown Municipal. Your time.
Well, this is what would end today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Would like to say thanks to all our guests for being a part of the program. Thanks to you, our lovely audience, for tuning in, and to those of you who dropped comments and questions on our Facebook page. You are appreciated. Thanks to our sponsor, Rokel Commercial Bank, and all the advertisers supporting Wake Up Sierra Leone and AYV. Thanks to our production and technical team. We've been your presenters. I am Phoebe Swill, wishing you a productive Monday and week.
I am Samuel Ibrahim Kurma. And I say continue to watch your YV television all throughout the day, as we have other programs, exciting programs that are lined up for you. So we'll meet again for another fresh edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone. I say have yourself a wonderful day. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.